Joe Thornton is getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, and no better person to talk about Jumbo Joe than one Kyle Demetrius.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network, where we cover your team every day, and the number one sports podcast network out there. If you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be talking about Joe Thornton, his legacy as he enters the Hockey Hall of Fame. We're going to talk about what Thornton meant to San Jose, his legacy in the NHL, and more importantly, what Thornton means to us personally. So before we get to all that, I do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. And making his triumphant return, former content boy Kyle Demetrius here to talk Joe Thornton. Kyle, how's it going, buddy?
You can't be a former content boy because we are them. So I am forever, perpetually. It's like if you become like president or like an Olympic medalist, you just never give it up. You can't, and I'm never passing it on. If you get a co-host, I possibly will poison them.
That's fair. That's the real reason I have not got to go is for their own safety.
Yeah, I'll find a way. But I even put my title down here as content boy because I don't need anything else in that section.
I could just say the man who needs no introduction, and then we just never actually say your name and just keep talking. Yes. So
yeah, it's good. It's good. About once a month, somebody tweets and is like, "Can Kyle come back on the show?" And I'm just like living my life down here, down under, upside down, and I'm like, oh yeah, maybe eventually. But I'm due to circumstances, I get to watch every Sharks game now, so it's been great to jump back in and have people yell at me again. And really dive into the depths of people who have shown up when they're bad and people who were here before they're bad and people who are here just for Macklin Celebrini. So it's been an interesting ride to be back on Sharks Twitter.
It is. Yeah. And Sharks Twitter right now is the whole thing. But we're here to talk about arguably the greatest player ever to wear teal.
Arguably.
There's
who are you arguing with?
A brick wall, but there's nobody who I thought would be better to have on to talk about Joe Thornton as someone who grew up as a San Jose Sharks fan. Of course, Owen Nolan, your favorite player, but you know how important Joe Thornton was and is to the San Jose Sharks, and with him getting introduced into the Hall of Fame, I thought again had to reach down under and get Kyle on. So let's start with talking about like, just for people who are maybe new into the San Jose franchise and stuff, and just how important Joe Thornton actually is to the San Jose Sharks franchise. So, I mean, we know Owen Nolan, the first superstar for the Sharks, but Thornton legitimately changed the franchise, right?
Yeah, so like the Sharks set the wins record of like 8 or 7 or whatever in the early 90s. They weren't good. Jeff Friesen, they missed on some draft picks, but Jeff Friesen was the first kind of like star. But if you go look at his stats and stuff like that, he was never like NHL superstar.
Yeah.
And then they had Sandis Ojeljic who came in, but he was back in those days. You had a foreign guy, like Russians had just started coming over in the late 80s. So he was from Latvia or Lithuania. So Ojeljic was also a star. They had some guys, but they were never really that team that had a guy. Like even Dallas and Minnesota, they had Mike Modano. And there's some of those teams that were LA had Wayne Gretzky previously. Anaheim at that time was getting Solani. They were about to get Korea, or they already had Korea. So like the teams around that time were kind of, they needed a star, and San Jose didn't really have that. So Owen Nolan came along and was, to people like about my age, mid-30s, a little bit older, probably their favorite player because he came along and he fought and got assists and goals. He was on the cover of NHL 2001, but he wasn't nearly, this is going to hurt me to say, he wasn't nearly as good as Joe Thornton. Joe Thornton is the best player to ever wear teal and black armor. I guess he was in that horrible, when all the highlights are in his like that white jersey with the logo and the orange piping. God, the worst jerseys that they possibly could have cooked up, and dudes out here spinning backhand no look passes to Patrick Marleau in that jersey. But what up to that point, the Sharks had been good in the early 2000s a little bit as well, but they hadn't really had that franchise foundation because Patrick Marleau went number 2 overall behind Thornton, but he wasn't on the scale of Thornton. He was always that step behind. He was a great Robin. He needed a Batman to help get it done. And 2005, when they got Thornton, it really cemented San Jose as a team that's been around for, at that point, 14. I think they're in their 15th season, as a team that could get good players. And the fact that they got him and kept him, and he's going to be the first San Jose Shark going into the Hall of Fame, was really the way that the franchise kind of got cemented. It was never going to leave. Wow. Yeah. It could have, but it was never in danger at that point. Especially with Hasso being the owner, but it really put San Jose on the map as a team that was serious about hockey, and him coming to San Jose, winning the Hart in his first year just was an incredible turn, especially because they didn't really give up much. Marco Stern, beloved favorite, but like the other guys that kind of gave up didn't really. It was just a poo-poo platter of stuff. They're like, here, Boston, have it. And it dropped randomly. I think it was a Wednesday. In the middle of, I was watching the game with my dad. It was like a Habs game on a Wednesday night or something. And back in those days, it was the wild, wild west of the internet. So nobody was sitting on Twitter and tweeting stuff out beforehand. So nobody even really knew that it was going to happen. And out of nowhere, they're like, we have a trade. Joe Thornton's been traded. And I looked at my dad and was like, God, I hope it's to San Jose. And he goes, I hope it's to Montreal. And then they're like, to the San Jose Sharks. And I jumped up and punched and broke a light above me. Nice. Because he was already a star. He was a star at that point already, but Boston needed to shake it up. And he had a reputation in Boston as somebody who wasn't tough and couldn't gut it out, even though he played the playoffs with broken ribs for Boston. So yeah, getting an A-grade superstar who then went on to win the Hart that year was franchise changing. I think from that point on, San Jose became a serious destination and a serious player for players in the league.
I mean, yeah, you see right after Joe Thornton gets there, right, the Sharks go on this run of basically 15 years of either being, in the playoffs or, I think there was the 1 year.
They missed once, and for their efforts, they got Timo Meier.
Yeah, they got the Timo Meier year. But, I mean, that was also a hangover, I think, that season from the reverse sweep, right? I think you can directly correlate, getting reverse sweeps and what happened after that. But, right, 15 straight years basically of being this powerhouse in the Western Conference. Of every time they went to the playoffs, you felt like you had a chance with Joe Thornton. And of course, we know, right, things just didn't break the Sharks' way, whether it's Vlasic getting a concussion against the Kings. And you and I think we'll both go to our graves thinking if Vlasic doesn't get hurt there, the Sharks win the cup that year. There's just, and that's playoff hockey, right? Just everything has to break your way, and they unfortunately didn't break our way. But like with Joe Thornton coming to San Jose, like you said, like legitimately made this a hockey town, and made not just a hockey town, but like a good hockey town with a great hockey team that should have probably won a cup if one thing or two things break differently for them.
Well, if you go back and look, once he arrives from his period in San Jose, so basically if we go from November 2005 to the end of, it was 2019 when they lost to the Blues. If you go in that 15-year stretch, San Jose is top for wins, or like in the top 2 or 3 for wins, playoff appearances, dropped my AirPod. God, I'm rusty. Dropped. They top of the wins, top of the playoff appearances. They went to conference finals a few times. They went back to back. Like, not many teams go back to back conference finals. They had a Hart winner. They had a Rocket Richard winner. They had the best defensive defenseman in the league. They had guys that were competing for trophies. year in and year out. So
Norris
once
Trophy,
he arrived,
Brett Burns Norris
Brent
Trophy
Burns won the
well.
Norris, and then Carlson won the Norris at the end.
Yeah.
If you look at that, it's he transformed it to the point where if you take Stanley Cups out of I take Stanley Cups out of the equation, which I know, don't yell at me.
Yes.
San Jose was the best team in the league for 15 straight years. There's nobody really that was better. Chicago, LA, Pittsburgh, a little
but
bit.
Even
Detroit
LA's
Detroit
was three. It was just like a 3-year run.
It was
right?
peaks. It was peaks. They peaked and then they died, and they peaked and they died, and they peaked and they died. So it's not like LA had sustained success. Pittsburgh obviously is the proto version of Macklin Celebrini on their team, and Sidney Crosby. So it was very helpful that they had Crosby, Malkin, Fleury, Letang. But they sustained success. Chicago with Kane, Taves, Keith, Seabrook. Keith obviously getting into the Hall of Fame with Thornton this year, which is really funny because if you look at the men's side, we'll leave the ladies are amazing. But if you look at the men's side and compare them against each other, Duncan Keith is clearly fourth on that list. Thornton, McGillney, Chara I think are all a step ahead of Keith, but Keith is a multi-time Norris winner, a Conn Smythe winner, multi-time Stanley Cup winner on one of the best teams of this century, and he's fourth. On that list.
He's getting picked fourth. He's picked last out of the dodgeball.
Which is really funny. So,
all right, before we continue with Kyle, we talk about Joe Thornton's legacy in the NHL. Do need to take a quick break. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. If you've ever been in the spot where you need to hire like yesterday, the pressure's on, and every day without the right person is a setback, that's exactly when Indeed sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. I'm also really excited to tell you about my favorite jeanswear brand, Doer. I've been living in their performance denim straight jeans, and honestly, they've completely changed the game for me. I love my Doer jeans because, one, they look great, right? That's very important that they you look good in the clothes that you wear. But two, Doer also has the stretchiest jeans. They have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim, but they don't look stretchy. They feel stretchy, but don't look stretchy. Doer combines classic jeanswear style with the kind of comfort and performance that you get from athletic wear. It's the best of both worlds. There's a reason why they call them the world's most comfortable pants, but don't take my word for it. Go try on a pair for yourself. Doer just opened a store here in Hayes Valley, so you can feel the difference firsthand. Go check them out at 567 Hayes Street. Mention our promo code LOCKEDONSF in store to get 15% off your first order, or check them out online at shopdoer.com/lockedonsf for 15% off. That's shopdoer.com/lockedonsf.
But San Jose transformed into the class of the NHL as soon as Thornton stepped on the ice. And that was the piece that they were. The importance to San Jose, that was the piece they were missing. They were missing that superstar to bring them together, and the guy that would go out there and drop 3 apples or be able to tie up the other centerman. And if you look at Thornton too, he wasn't one of these guys that played on L1 center his whole career. In 2016, when they went to the Stanley Cup Finals, he said, "I'll play 3C," so that Couture could play 1C and Hertl could play 2C, and give them the best third line in the league at that point. And he played with random guys. I don't even remember who his wingers were at that time.
It was the STL lines. It was LeBanc and then Marcus Sorensen, right? Yeah, when you're
Marcus Sorensen. Oh Jesus! I remember Marcus Sorensen. Well, I tweeted the other day. Somebody said I don't know hockey because I said, well, when the Sharks get good, you got to talk about winning on the margins, and you can't be having Melker Karlsson on line 1 and thinking that's okay. And he said I don't know hockey at that point, but Joe Thornton had to drag around Melker Karlsson. Remember those days when Melker Karlsson was left wing on line one, and everybody was like, "What are you doing? You don't have to have grinder, playmaker, sniper. This is not NHL 2005." But he dropped down to the third line to play 3C on a team that was the second best team in the league, and the only team that could have beat them was the Pittsburgh Penguins, who were an absolute buzzsaw. But if you go back and look at the stats for San Jose that year, they should have won. They win the cup 99 times out of 100. They just happened to meet Pittsburgh in the finals. If Pittsburgh loses to, was it Ottawa? I think it was Ottawa. That won in Game 7 overtime. They win the Stanley Cup. So, but yeah, Thornton was a guy who would move around. He would take Marcus Sorensen and Kevin Labanc onto his third line and make an amazing third line and give them career years. And he was a guy that had to see. And then Doug Wilson, I think, for all his good and all his bad, we can have a whole episode about Doug Wilson. But he stripped him of the captaincy. Joe Thornton didn't go and say, trade me to Toronto or trade me to New York or whatever. He just talked Doug Wilson in the media and behind closed doors, and then rallied around the boys. What was the speaking of, I can see it on the side, Joe Thornton's importance to San Jose. What was when Karlsson was there, when they were at his house and they were shaving the beard off and stuff like that? What was that thing called? The friendship or
it was. He called it a fellowship. We had a fellowship.
The fellowship. That's the kind of stuff where you need guys like that, and it happened to be one of the best players in the league. Like Joe Thornton was top five for most of his stretch in San Jose, and then if he wasn't top 5, he became top 20, top 25, and played 3C. So Joe Thornton is everything to this franchise. I think he's far and away the best player, and it's going to be a tough road to get close to him. But his importance is he revolutionized San Jose hockey in the market, the area, and the way that they went about things, and the way they competed.
I think you're leaving out that one random Noah Gregor hat trick game in March.
I'm sure we could go back and find like random games. I'll do it during ad breaks. I'll look up a random game from a random year of Joe Thornton and see what he just did to make some amazing play, or what kind of donkey he was saddled with in those years. Because as much as I love Jonathan Cheechoo, and injuries robbed Jonathan Cheechoo of a longer goal-scoring career. Jonathan Cheechoo winning the Rocket Richard and scoring 56 goals is absolutely insanity. That makes no sense.
I'm trying. Like, what's the equivalent of that? Like in this year, like something like that this year, it would be Macklin Celebrini having Will Smith on his right wing, and those two guys playing well, and then having Ethan Cardwell score 50 goals. Something like that. Yeah.
Colin
Graff scored 50 goals with something like that. So,
I like Colin Graff. Don't get me wrong. I like Colin Graff. I think he's great, but he's probably got a good goal scoring. He's got a decent goal scoring touch. He just needs 30 of those 50 to be open net tap-ins. So yes, that's yeah.
All right. The legacy, I think, with Thornton in the NHL, right, and just because it kind of feels like he's almost a little, I want to say, underrated. You look at like the NHL did its top 100, and there's the running joke for old time Sharks fans of like, oh, Joe Thornton must have been 101, stuff like that. This guy 7th all time in assists, one of the greatest playmakers of his not only of his generation but of the NHL. But where do you think Joe Thornton, now that we're stepping away from his career, where do you think he kind of fits into the legacy of the NHL?
I think he is one of the 21st century superstars. Like, you can't write, when you go back and look at the history books, it's like in baseball. You can't leave out Barry Bonds. You can't leave out Mark McGwire. You can't leave out Pete Rose. You can't leave out Joe Jackson. They're all important people, and they were all banned from the Hall of Fame for various reasons, good or bad. If you go back and rewrite the history books of the 21st century, you can't get around Joe Thornton. Like, you could leave out Patrick Marleau, you could leave out Joe Pavelski, you could leave out Logan Couture, you could leave out Evgeny Nabokov, you could leave out Brent Burns. Well, you can't really leave out Brent Burns, he won an Norris, but if you're writing a 30,000 foot, you can leave out Brent Burns, but you can't. No matter what view you take of the NHL in the 21st century, you can't leave out Joe Thornton. He was a number 1 overall pick, went to Boston, was really good, was a goal scorer. I think he had a 40-something goal season. Blockbuster trade in the middle of the season out of nowhere to San Jose, put San Jose on the map, wins the MVP, has them as one of the best teams. You can't get around him. His legacy is going to be playmaker. Mm-hmm. He's one of 3 guys that has back-to-back 90-goal seasons. Or 90 assist season, sorry, not 90 goals. Jesus, Wayne Gretzky, 90 assist season with like Gretzky and Doug Gilmour or something like that. It's like a really weird stat, but
and especially too, you have to keep in mind like that scoring era of like the NHL was
clutch and grab.
Yeah, nowhere near what we're seeing now. Like if you 2-goal leads,
it wasn't the 80s and it wasn't now.
Yeah, like I think that almost makes it more impressive of like what Thornton did in that time because of like just the rules and stuff like that. And I know coming out of the lockout where they tried to open things up, but still just what that he was able to just the production he was still able to have even with that era of hockey. Sorry, go back.
Yeah, no, he was scoring points and getting assists in a time. He came in the dead puck era, like in 1997, 98.
Yeah.
New Jersey had ruined the NHL with the trap, and then the Minnesota Wild were like, hey, we're new. We're going to also do that. So there was a lot of clutching and grabbing. They hadn't got rid of the Darian Hatchers yet, type guys that were big, gigantic, hulking defensemen that would grab you and get you to pull them back into the defensive zone and stuff like that. Those guys were fading out. We don't see too many of them anymore. So it was still a time when points were a little bit hard to come by. Around that time, somebody won the Rocket Richard with not even a 50-goal season. So when you look back, he was a dominant force at the same time when the dominant forces were Jaromir Jagr. Him. There's not many more guys that you're going to put above him. Sidney Crosby, but he doesn't come in until 2004, 5, or 6. He's a cut above Malkin. He's a cut above. Other than Crosby, currently McDavid, Ovechkin, Jagr. Some of the guys that were dying out at the end, like Lemieux, he played against Mario Lemieux, Joe Sakic, Steve Yzerman. But those guys were all at the tail end of their career. They're still putting up crazy numbers, but they were at the tail end of their career. Joe Thornton crossed over with Wayne Gretzky for 2 seasons, which is actually insane. So like some of those older 80s stars, early 90s stars, Brett Hull, Dominic Hasek, they were kind of finishing up their career. So if you look at more contemporary, the Jaromir Jagrs who play forever, he's a cut above Agilna. Still playing. He is actually. Yes. He's a cut above Agilna. He's a cut above Modano. He's a cut above Nick Backstrom, Malkin. He's a cut above all these guys. It's really just your Jagrs, your Crosbys, your McDavids that are the guys that would sit maybe above him. But he is the class of the class. And in terms of what he'll be remembered for, it's passing, 100% passing. Nobody's going to remember. Well, hold on, save that thought. It's passing because it's passing. And he's in a tier of all-time assist men. I think Adam Oates is still probably maybe the gold standard of forward guys.
Adam Oates in that ugly stick of his, just the most ridiculous.
Adam Oates also played for like 5 different teams. But Adam Oates was a guy that would show up on your team, like on the Blues, and Brett Hull scored 70 goals, and then he'd show up on the Bruins, and Cam Neely would score 60, and then he'd show up on Washington, and Peter Bonner would have back-to-back 50-goal seasons. So Adam Oates, I think, is still the gold standard of assist men. Thornton, you can make a case, is probably number 2. If you add in defensemen, like a guy like Ray Bourque, sits up there. Like there's a couple guys. We're talking about a handful of guys that are better at passing the puck than Joe Thornton. And when you look at the highlights, I reckon Joe Thornton has more highlight reel passes than an Adam Oates.
That's fair.
I think the other thing he'll be remembered for is the rooster trick. That's what I was getting to.
We'll get to that. Yes,
but that's only San Jose. Nobody actually. I saw somebody make fun of it nationally, but rooster trick is more personal.
It has gotten, I think, it has gotten to a NH like a 4, the 4 goals standard. Like I think it is 100%.
Has anybody scored 4 goals since then?
Yes. I mean, Timo Meier scored 5.
But Timo became not fun. Timo was too cool to. Macklin and Will Smith are the hope for actually miming something out.
Sneaky Sam Dickinson is like yeah,
it's in his name.
Yes. So I think if Sam Dickinson ever did it, that would be because I think he's a chill guy like that. So
and his last name.
So all right, we're gonna finish up with Kyle here talking about Joe Thornton in just 1 second. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Joe Thornton, I think what he has meant to just personally for us, right? Like, as someone who it's like a treat to get to watch Joe Thornton just night in and night out. And, I started my coverage of the Sharks that 2018 season, right? That last great season of Sharks hockey before points to whatever has been the last, 7 years basically since then. But just, night in, night out, when it's like this treat of just, we get to watch Joe Thornton in his prime, do cool Joe Thornton things. What's the one highlight or that one thing you always think of, rooster trick aside from Joe Thornton when you think of him? So
that was late period Joe Thornton. He had like a couple different things. He had early trade, because when he got traded, especially living in Canada, I was the king of the schoolyard at that point. I was 16. So at that point, we were a little more nuanced, but still could talk each other in high school. But I was the king. I got bragging rights over everybody. Quickly faded when they couldn't win the Stanley Cup. But I got bragging rights over everybody. And back then the news cycle was a lot longer. So Joe Thornton getting traded to San Jose lived for me for months. That whole season, basically, probably I got to dine out on Joe Thornton being in San Jose, but him propelling Jonathan Cheechoo to a 50-goal season, like you could point to that, and then from there on, for me, it was just like we have the best player in the league, or the second best player in the league, or the third best player in the league. It was never really much lower than that. So for me, I got to come into every season from middle of 2005 on, going right. We have the best player. We have the best assist setup man. Patrick Marleau could score 50 goals. Joe Pavelski scored 50 goals. Danny Heatley scored back-to-back 50 goals. At that point, it was like, right, we're winning the cup this year. Like every year from 2005, 2006, pretty much it was San Jose as a favorite to win the cup. And for me, it was like, we should win the cup this year. We should win the cup this year. There's a couple of years where probably you go, I don't know, but we were going to make the playoffs. Like not making the playoffs. We were thinking about not playoffs was not even a factor when they missed the playoffs in the Timo year. Like, what is that? That hadn't happened in so long. So the highlight that sticks out. What I'll remember Joe Thornton. Maybe. This is really morbid. When he's sad after they do the reverse sweep and he's on the bench and he's looking like. This is pre-beard. I was never a big fan of the big bushy beard era.
The Pete Blackburn clip gif of him just looking down and looking sad.
That one, maybe that. Also the jumbo slide. You can't get it. You can't get around that when he just turtle slides and spins around. I think that if you had to distill it down to one pass, the camera angle that's in the corner and Marleau's in front of you, in front of the goal, and then he's on the other side where he's a lefty, so he's backs to you, and he skates back towards the blue, and then he throws the backhand pass around his body, no look, taped to Marleau, and he taps it in. I think you could probably pinpoint that as the highlight reel assist, because you're never going to pick a Joe Thornton goal. I honestly, hand to heart, could not think of a Joe Thornton goal.
I would say his 400th goal, that 400th goal. And then like when he's like,
is that when he does the juggle slide?
Yeah, no, yeah, he like does like the fit, like the Tiger Woods fist, right? And then like he's on the bench and like the like that.
Does he?
400th goal. Yeah, that one's big. I think though, like the pass to Marleau against the Red Wings in overtime there, like that play, of course, I think is going to be up there for like that. That is like one.
Did he spring Goodrow against the Knights?
No, that was noted Eric Carlson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, because Joe Thornton, like, this is the hard part with Joe Thornton, where he gets left off the top 100 and people look at him and go, "Oh, no cups," is that he doesn't have like a highlight reel package that you put on there and the sizzle reel just goes crazy. Like he doesn't. Yeah. I'm sure somebody could make one that's pretty cool, but at the end of the day, it's gonna be a lot of passes and a lot of him like along the half boards and the guy scoring and doing a celebration and coming over to Thornton and pointing at him. Like everybody, I think if you asked hockey players, he's a hocky player's favorite hockey player. He's one of those kind of guys
because he makes everybody run him better. Yeah,
he's the MF Doom of hockey players. But like, you can't really pinpoint a highlight. even Jeremy Roenick, who is not welcome into my San Jose speeches, his 500th goal was banked off the glass. So even that you kind of remember more so than anything Joe Thornton did. There's Joe Thornton's moments also, like a lot of stuff kind of came off the ice as well. Mm-hmm. Think about him signing his contract extension on the tractor.
Yeah.
On the tractor, he was shirtless. Him and Brent Burns walking down in Santa Clara in San Jose, shirtless.
I thought it was him growing, Florida, but anyway,
maybe in Florida, some sunny place.
He was shirtless all the time, so
he was shirtless a lot. He did a lot of interviews shirtless. Him talking about the rooster trick. He wasn't even part of the interview. They were just talking to Hurdle, and he just started yelling about them. Him shit talking Ron Wilson in the media, him growing the big beard, the fellowship, like all of this stuff was
there's the I think the 2018 season where him and the kid, like his kids are playing like mini sticks in the hall, and he's just like wearing like his underwear, and like that's it. And just like a normal Joe Thornton experience there. So just
that man owns very few shirts, I think.
Yes.
Even he's the gift that keeps on giving. Even now, he's at the Hockey Hall of Fame this weekend. We're recording this after this happened, but they ask him what it means to go to the Hall of Fame, and he unleashes an unreal clip. Just that soundbite, a perfect soundbite that encapsulates everything that Joe Thornton is about.
Yes.
So it's a lot of the Joe Thornton mystique and aura and what he means to us comes along, not the fact that he was dropping 90 assists and had 130 point seasons and was just a regular 100-point machine.
The personality
stuff, the personality that you get to do, like Connor McDavid is the best player since Sidney Crosby, and he's already probably a top 10 hockey player ever. Personality of a cactus. Unfortunately, cactus is probably bad. I would prefer if he was prickly. A wet noodle. So Joe Thornton was a guy that wasn't afraid to talk his mind. So starting when I was 16, when he got traded to San Jose, getting to come into like high school and then college and then afterwards in your 20s, and having Joe Thornton either make a crazy assist or have a 1 goal, 3 assist game, or just a 2-apple game where they win 6-0. But then also potentially gives an unreal quote. It was just constant joy. I think joy is the thing that you get from Joe Thornton. Also, he played forever. He didn't win a cup, but he went to Toronto. He went to Florida. He tried to win a cup. I probably would have brought him back for one last season so he could retire, like the Patrick Marleau method. But you just get the idea that he just loves hockey, and the infectiousness of his joy of playing the game. And if his body didn't betray him, we probably would have saw him last a little bit longer or have a couple more good seasons. But just the joy that he had on the ice and the joy that he gave us watching, knowing that we were good and we were probably going to win, and that he was going to potentially do something cool.
Yeah, I think it's a great place to leave it. Kyle, where can the people find you, buddy? Now that you're back in the hockey Twitter sphere. So
yeah, Kyle Demetrius. I'm tweeting again. Please. Well, you can yell at me. I don't really care. I'm not affiliated with anything anymore, so I'll just yell back at you. I've taken to the block button. I've done that a lot. I just take a quick peek at their profile and just nope. See you later. There is one guy who loves Connor Bedard, and so he just is in everybody's mentions that might be getting the block soon. But Kyle Demetrius, I'm technically also on Blue Sky. I'm gonna start tweeting there again. If you want, is it tweeting, skying, bluing?
I don't know, man.
Bluing my tweets. I don't know what it's called. Yeah. So I'm there. Otherwise, you can't find me anywhere else because I don't live in America or North America. I'm not telling everybody where I live.
That's fair. Buddy, we'll chat again soon.
Yeah. Have me talk about Macklin Celebrini for 3 hours.
We could easily do that. Yes, we could easily do that. All right. I want to thank Kyle for spending a couple minutes out of his day to talk to Jumbo Joe Thornton as Joe Thornton goes to the Hockey Hall of Fame. No one more deserving than Thornton, who, again, changed San Jose hockey for the better, made this, I think, the hockey town that it is today, and why I think so many fans love the Sharks and where the Sharks are now heading with our new era of Sharks hockey here. But we'll be back, of course, tomorrow. So with what we learned from the last week, so make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Until tomorrow, bye, friends.